Will there be an unconditional basic income in the next 20 to 30 years? If our assumptions, my assumptions about the future, are reasonably correct, then if we do not introduce a basic income in whatever form, so that virtually nobody has to live in real poverty, the danger of social distortions is very great. There will perhaps be a bang, as some people say, whatever that means in concrete terms. The third and final option, there will be a conditional basic income. Not a UBI, but a CBI. Why? It is a common misconception that we will run out of work. No, we will never lack problems, wishes, and therefore tasks and work to do. Work is the exercise of a meaningful activity in which the meaning is determined by the worker and/or the beneficiary. At best, we will lack customers and workplaces, but not work, to start with. So many people work voluntarily in associations and organizations. So many people work in their household, in their garden. So society, all of us, has the right and actually the duty to protect their interests. Therefore, society should expect a return in exchange for an income, or at least the fulfillment of a condition. Provided, of course, that the recipient of the basic income can do anything at all. Those who are ill or disabled must not, of course, be forced to meet the same requirements as healthy people. Conditions to be met prevent people from wanting to immigrate in order to then profit from the social benefits, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Those who want and are able to work should have it easy to find paid work or to create it themselves. We have become far too accustomed to employers creating jobs, and if they don't, then we wait until they do it again, often in vain. This is an attitude that has no future. And then the excuse that there are no jobs is then gone. In this way, the rapid loss of many tasks through AI and robotics could be partially compensated by establishing and supporting companies that organize work and tasks for which too little has been paid or for which there has too little money been available. These are, above all, charitable tasks and the support of people who need help and assistance in emotional and psychological support, in environmental protection. The biggest challenge will be that this shall not harm existing companies or have such a system that should make it easier for those companies to offer paid work. Otherwise, we would further state socialism again, and this is something we absolutely shouldn't do. The society, the state, should act as a client, as a customer, and it should thoroughly examine its suppliers. Under no circumstances should we subsidize existing jobs. We must ensure payment for meaningful work. Companies such as Patreon and Kickstarter, they show how good projects and work can be financed without the state. Work that would not have been possible in the conventional way. In order to ensure that clients and employers do not use the CBI to pay their employees less, an acceptable minimum wage per day or hour is then required. And if it really turns out that so many new tasks, jobs, and professions are created anyway that we don't need this at all, then we will only slowly be expanding the CBI. Or not at all. A UBI, in contrast, an unconditional basic income, would never be abolishable again. But wait, there is the rest of people. Those who nevertheless do not work for money because they do not want to, or they can't do so, will then receive a basic income. That will be well over 1,000 euros or dollars because you need more to live, but also well below what you get when you work. There must be a supplement for people who can only work to a limited extent or not at all. And that is then perhaps 1 or 2% of the people. Some will spend the whole day playing computer games and simulations. So what? Only these 2% who cannot find work and have no other acceptable income are paid an acceptable basic income by society or the state. With a feeling of a basic security, many people will decide more courageously to create meaningful work themselves and to make a living with it completely or partly. In principle, it should be right and very desirable to let people participate as much as possible in the added value of companies, AIs, and robots. So to encourage them and make it easier for them to become shareholders and thus business owners to live from dividends and possibly also value increases. But since we have a deeply established and rather hostile, or at least skeptical climate against business, this would probably take a very long time. But that would be the best way, the ideal way. Then the machines could really work for all of us. But unfortunately, too few people do understand that companies are the generators of prosperity and that people should participate. That's why it won't be a significant source of funding, unfortunately. So how would we determine and pay the conditional basic income? Well, everyone has to file an income tax return, right? In principle. If you pay a lot of taxes, you won't get a CBI. Those who pay a little or nothing in taxes, they get a CBI as a negative income tax. They get more money from the tax authority than they pay. A CBI needs to be financed as well, and there are many different ideas. Simply from tax money would work if the profits from increasing automation by AI and robotics would also lead to more tax revenues. And many other social benefits, which in addition often require an unimaginable bureaucratic effort, would be saved elsewhere. In many countries, like in Germany, 30% of the gross domestic product is spent on social benefits. That's a lot of money. Cutting the other social benefits is of course possible, but it would have to be implemented consistently and in the interest of the whole. But individual interests will of course defend themselves against any reduction, even if it harms society. The next option is to finance a CBI as a tax on the entire value added through a company. In the short version, this means that it is no longer the profit of a company that is taxed, but its value added. The value added is the revenue minus the purchased products and services of other companies. The more automated the value added is, the higher the tax. That is what some people also call a machine tax or a robot tax. Bill Gates and many others support this idea. The effect one expects is that not only the owners of the companies, but virtually everyone would have the machines work for them through getting more taxes and then getting the basic incomes or the jobs. A disadvantage, however, is that this will create competitive disadvantage compared to other countries, other companies in other countries, and possibly even lower productivity, which will reduce prosperity or prevent it from growing. It is theoretically possible that all countries on the world commit to such a tax, but the chances are rather slim. The machine tax or robot tax is therefore unlikely to be the solution. Tax financing will probably be done through the tax system and without new taxes. But highly productive companies like Google would have to pay as much tax as small companies in percentage terms and in the countries in which they create the value. Siemens, for example, employs 370,000 people to make $6 billion in profits. At Google, 100,000 people work to make $30 billion in profits. Per employee, the profits at Siemens is $16K, and at Alphabet, it's $300K, 19 times more. The decisive factor is that a conditional basic income would only have to be paid to pretty few people, so it is a lot easier to finance than a UBI. What are the arguments in favor of a conditional basic income? Well, see the arguments that result from our assumptions. If we do not introduce a basic income, times will get rough and tough. Many of the benefits of an unconditional basic income are also achieved with a conditional basic income. From my point of view, however, with greater certainty and sustainability. Because not everyone gets it, a conditional basic income costs significantly less, or those get more who really need it. Because it is essentially linked to performance, there is hardly any danger of laziness. And for the same reason, a CBI would not reduce productivity, but increase it. Productivity is underestimated in its importance. It's not about profit maximization. It is simply about prosperity and quality of life. It's a generator of wealth. The counter-arguments? Well, only one. Many tasks in public administration will no longer be necessary. These are not exactly the most beautiful tasks. Well, to determine and monitor the exact number, the exact amount of money that people need to live. But this does not necessarily mean that this has to cost jobs. Who has not yet complained about the slow pace of public administration? There is still a lot to do, and mostly better things to do. So that is not really a disadvantage. So let's use our yellow glasses again for the vision, for the desired future. Will there be an unconditional basic income? No. Will there be no basic income? No. Will there be a conditional basic income? Yeah. A CBI should help to ensure that people feel safer. Almost everyone has a paid job if they want one. The cohesion in society becomes greater again. We get closer together. We do not have to be afraid of social unrest. We will put the increase in prosperity on a broader basis. The system is financially sustainable, and the quality of life increases. Now what? What do you think? What do you think about my assessment? What is yours? Write it in the comments below. I'm curious to learn what you think. With the purple glasses, they are for the plan, not the big long-term plan, that's rather the vision, but for the concrete action to be taken from now on. For me, the necessary changes are clear. We have to change something fundamentally. We have to rethink work and income. Integrate the principles of a CBI into your corporate mission and vision. In the future, companies will be particularly well rewarded by society with sales and good employees if they are useful to society. The social value needs to be increased and defined first. Is that the case in your company? Is it part of your mission and vision? Is it really practiced? Come to our Leaders Vision Days. Then we can work on it together. You can find the link below in the video description. Push for a solution in your social circles, in your associations. And if you want to get politically involved, do it and help to develop the solutions. Have a bright future. Do you want to know more about the future? More than your friends and colleagues? And how to be a visionary leader? My next video is already in the making, so click subscribe and hit the bell too.